Hey Lionheart folks, it's Lev. Welcome back to another video. For those of you who are new, I use he and pronouns. I'm indoors today because it's currently raining outside and apparently there's thunderstorms here in Melbourne. Today's video, I wanted to talk about my relationship with technology and screens in general, and how I sort of, in a way, adopted digital minimalism and sort of managed my use with screens and tech in a way that it's still part of my life, but it's a part of my life, but I'm in control of tech, and tech is not in control of me. I'm gonna go through like a few tips and sort of things I've implemented in my life to help me sort of manage my relationship with tech. Actually, before that, I should explain why sort of I've adopted these actions and why I'm sort of changing my relationship with technology. Firstly, I have like a limit on how much content I consume. Like I don't really go on Facebook or like new social media anymore in terms of like scrolling through the app. I use like Facebook Messenger to talk to people, but I don't really have social apps where I just scroll and like look at posts and stuff that much. Occasionally I go on Facebook like every now and then out of curiosity to see what people post, but I log out every time and I log back in every time I want to go on Facebook. I also uninstall the app and uninstall the app again every time I want to go on it, so that really helps mitigate that. But I don't spend that much time on those apps, but for the past few years I have been spending a lot of time like watching content online, predominantly YouTube content, and I never knew why I kept feeling tired and like sort of overwhelmed. Like I didn't understand it because it was like I took steps to eat healthier, exercise more, be conscientious of exercise, keep in touch with friends, be social, and do all the things that are, say, good for mental health. But one thing I didn't realize is that being on screen so much drains me, and I didn't realize that even if I took breaks. So say I didn't watch like YouTube for like 3 hours straight, right? I watched YouTube, I did some other thing, and then I went back to watching, and then I took a break and did something, and then I went to watch again. This was especially true during COVID, and before I realized how much screens drained me and overwhelmed me. Basically, it was a lot of time on screens. Even if I took breaks in between screen time, overall, my days were a lot of time spent on screens and specifically consuming content. And I realize now that spending time on screens in general, especially while just watching content for the sake of watching content. I'm not saying I don't watch YouTube now. It's more watching it with intention and being very specific about the videos I watch and the type of content I watch, and being mindful of like whether I enjoy it or not, just like not like mindlessly watching videos for the sake of watching videos, if that makes sense. And that links into my like sort of screen time, it links to my content consumption limits, because I have like a limit. I can't watch content for hours on end, and I realize I have a limit in my day as well, because if I spend too much time on screens and watching content online, I run out of energy to do other things. And I've also noticed that spending time off screens energizes me. Spending a lot of time on screens in general drains me, and spending time off screens in general sort of re-energizes me. It gives me a lot more energy. And that's why I've sort of adopted digital minimalism, that's the word, and to help me with that. So the first thing I've done and have been doing since 2018 is turning off all my notifications on my phone, except for calls and messages. And I don't mean like app like Facebook messages or social. It's my phone number messages. And the reason I leave that notifications on is because I don't really text people, my friends and fam on there. I mostly get text messages from like my worker who helps me, or my phone provider, or like say if I bought something from Amazon, like package delivery, which I don't really buy much of. So like things like that. It's not so much for like connecting with other people on a regular basis. It's more like a uni I applied for, or something I bought, or my phone provider, or something like that. That's why I leave my, or like a doctor's appointment reminder, or stuff like that, which I don't really get that often. So I don't really get hooked on that. And calls, and with calls specifically, only my favorite contacts, not like scam callers or like random people or like people I don't really talk to. So favorite contact only, and texts from like health providers or like delivery packages and stuff. Otherwise, all other apps on my phone, including email, I turn off all notifications for. No pop-up notifications, no vibration notifications, not even the one where they show on the drop-down thing. I turn it off for that too. I turn it off for everything. Because, and I've been doing this since 2018, so I've been implementing this for like over 5 years. It gives me control of when I go online to check my emails or respond to people or stuff like that. Like, it's not my phone telling me that I need to go do this, like respond. It's I go on and respond whenever I willingly choose to, and not get annoyed and pestered by notifications telling me that bang, 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 this is going on, reply or read the message, etc. And I found it really distracting before I implement this turning off all notifications thing. I found it really distracting when I was at uni, and something just, when I'm trying to focus on something and there's like a ding on my phone, I look up, I look over, I get distracted. Or when I try to like write a blog post, I used to write blog posts back then a lot, before I was a lot more confident in making YouTube videos. I wrote a lot of blogs, writing a blog, and something comes up notification, and it wrecked my flow state, and I got really, really annoyed. I think I turned off all notifications because I got really annoyed by how much it was distracting me and how much it ruined my flow state and my state of focus. Because in general, I get annoyed when I lose focus, when I'm trying to focus on something. Like hypothetically now, if I had it on, right, and I was doing this video and there was a notification from Facebook Messenger popping up about something, I would feel annoyed because I'm in this slow state, and then some Messenger app pops up, and then I'm just like, what the hell? It just like ruins my phone state. So turning off all notifications of basically all non-essential things. The second thing I've done is something I've done recently is like uninstall all apps on my phone that I don't use. I used to have a very cluttered phone. Like I used to like play with like music apps and stuff on my phone back then, but I haven't touched those in like over a year. Yet I still left those on my phone until recently, like a few weeks ago, where I decluttered my phone. I just left app there for the sake of leaving it there, even though I don't look at it, I don't even touch it, and I forget they exist on my phone because I don't even use them. So what I did was go through all my apps and uninstall all the ones that are not relevant and things that I don't actively use or I don't think are actively helpful. For example, I don't really use the first aid app on my phone or emergency plus, but I keep them there just for emergency reasons, safety reasons, in case say something happens and I need to look at first aid. There's a first aid app. Or emergency plus is an app where So if I don't know my location and I need to dial 000, which is the emergency number, I can go on that and call them from that app, and the app knows exactly where I am, even though I might not know where I am at the time. Like things like that, like things I actively use and things that I think would be good for safety, or another like legit reason, not just leaving the app there for the sake of leaving the app there, I keep. Otherwise, I've uninstalled all my other apps, even the music apps, because I don't actively use them. And if I use them, I just install them again. So it's like, it doesn't really make a difference unless they delete it from the app store, which doesn't really bother me because I don't really use it that much anymore. Basically, decluttering my phone. It just looks neater. Decluttering my phone neater makes me feel better mentally. This is something I've been doing as of late as well, since I realized how much being on screens in general drain me, is engaging in screen time mindfully. And that's like any sort of screens. It's just being on screens in general. Using like the energy I have for screens and being on screens in a very strategic way, so that I don't sort of like waste my screen time energy, for lack of better words, on things that I don't enjoy, that aren't meaningful, or things that are sort of done mindlessly, which is not ideal. For example, I use my screen time to, say, film videos. Being on videos like this, looking at a screen like this also drains my energy because I'm looking at a screen. But it's meaningful, and it's something that I save my screen time energy for lack of better words. When watching content online, on Netflix or on YouTube, being mindful about the content I choose to consume. I'm not saying I don't watch like shows or anything, and that I only watch all serious stuff about life. No, I do enjoy shows, but it's more being strategic about when I watch and how much I watch and how often I watch, based on my energy reserves and how I feel. Because if I say feel overstimulated and then I force myself to watch a show or content online, that just drains me even more. When I'm already overstimulated and I need to be off screens and I force myself to be on screens, that doesn't help. Yes, the whole point of this specific segment is finding activities to do that are offline, off screens in general, and spending more time in activities that are offline and off the screen. For example, I started taking up guitar again. At brief context, I started learning guitar at the start of the year, like Jan, Feb, March at the start of the year, and then I sort of dropped it. I dropped it because I wasn't motivated to continue, and then I picked it up again because I was looking for more non-screen activities to do, and then I'm like, I love music, and then I re-engaged with guitar, re-engaged with drumming, and that gives me more fulfillment, like learning something and then progressing with it slowly over time gives me more meaning than spending most of my 3 hours watching something on a screen. The other thing I do with my screen time is play games, and I love playing video games, but again, I'm very strategic about when I play and how much I play, because overdoing it really leads to overstimulation, which then makes other things go downhill. The other thing I've done is deactivated or deleted apps that I'm not actively on. It sort of leads to, no, it links to I think the second point I had about decluttering your phone, but this one specific to social media apps. Like being intentional about the social media apps I have and whether I actually use them. For example, I don't want 5, 6, 7 different messaging apps to message a bunch of different people on. It's like cutting back on things when, say, if someone you know has 2 social medias and one of them is the same social media that you use, can use that social media to message that person instead of making a different account to message that person and have like an extra account, social media account for nothing, if that makes sense. Like if you have reasons, or if you have reasons to have like 10 different social media apps, then that's okay. But something to consider is cutting back on the amount of social media apps that you have, based on whether you use them or not, or whether there's like overlap. Because I found for me that the more social media apps I have, the more overwhelmed I get in having to keep up with all of these apps. And just for me, this might sound weird, but having just the existence of different multiple social media apps account and having like half of them be inactive or I don't actually need it really bothers me. So I like went to delete social media apps that I don't need anymore, are not serving me anymore, or the people I talk to on those apps I can talk to on a different app, so there's no double up with having two accounts to talk to the same person. An analogy, if you will, it's what we consume on social media is sort of analogous to what we feed our bodies and mind through food and liquid. If we don't eat mindfully, our body may not feel nourished or refreshed or have the right fuel to keep going and supply the energy that, if we don't eat mindfully, what we consume may not nourish our bodies and provide the right fuel and energy for us to go about our day and for our body to help function healthily and for all systems to work intact. Sort of the same with content is there's so many options out there of content nowadays. So many streaming services. The amount of YouTube videos that are online is like endless. It's just so much content out there. YouTube content, streaming services, social media content like on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which is not Twitter anymore, X, all of that stuff. There's so much content in the world. And I think it's important for us to filter out content that is good for us personally and content that is not so good and nourishing for our mind. Just like the food and drink we consume and being mindful about that, content consumption is the same thing. It's like, what are we feeding our brains? What are we feeding our minds? Are we being selective about what we feed our minds? Are we filtering out things and being aware of things that may not be so good for us, and things to have in moderation but not too much? And I think screen time is also a thing, is enjoying screen time in moderation and not too much. If I were to completely cut out screens from my life, that would be very hard because phones and internet and TVs and technology, and I want technology and screens to be a part of my life. Like, it would be very different if I didn't have access to these things. Like I wouldn't be able to make videos or hear other people's ideas through different YouTube videos and stuff like that. There is a place for technology, but living on either extreme, like if I were to completely cut it out, everything, and I go live in a cave under a rock or something, that's not going to be very good for me. But if I spend my whole life on screens, and do nothing else and spend most of my days on screens in general, that's also not going to be very good for me. So there has to be a balancing act here, with being intentional. I guess if someone spends a lot of time on screens for work or other reasons like that, it's a different story from having free time and being on screens way too much. Something I just remembered about myself is that if I don't want to watch something, it's very hard for me to watch something. For example, I never watch Frozen. My siblings are like, it's good, you should watch it. And I'm like, I don't want to watch Frozen. Like, if I try to consume content that my brain's like, no about, then it's very hard for me to sit through something. I would say if I were to watch Frozen and I don't want to watch Frozen, I would sit in the movie, I would sit for like a few minutes and then get bored and then like basically turn it off or like leave. Hypothetically, it's because I don't know, my brain has a way of like filtering out things that I don't want to watch, and I won't be able to focus on things that I don't want to watch. Whereas if it's something I do want to watch and my brain sort of backlogged it, being like, this is a good thing to watch, and then I would be able to focus on it. I would be able to actually absorb what is being presented, the video, the film, the content that's being presented. I would be able to absorb that and actually get something out of it and also enjoy it in the process, not sit through something and being like, this is absolute torture, I don't want to watch this. Yeah, it's funny. My brain's worked this way for years. Like it's not just a recent thing. It's been like this for years. It's helped me actually. It's been quite helpful in sort of dictating what I watch and consume online. The last point I just thought of in terms of screen time reduction is choosing to listen to audiobooks or podcasts. I historically in my life have not really listened to podcasts, but as of late I've been listening to a lot more podcasts as opposed to sitting and sitting and watching something, because I just don't like looking at a screen for that long. And podcasts and audio content is a workaround for that, because I can focus longer on podcasts and I don't have to look at a screen, which really helps with the sort of screen time battery I have. I don't know if y'all heard that, but there was just a thunderstorm. And I hope the noise came through on the right mic. That's why I was just like waiting. But yeah, listening to podcasts and like audio content instead of sitting and looking at a screen all the time. And the good thing about audio podcasts is I can do other things while listening and not have to like focus on a screen. Otherwise I miss stuff or miss content. I can just listen and do other things at the same time. Or sometimes I use it and I just like sit back and just like close my eyes and listen to a podcast and sort of go into this like altered state of consciousness where sort of like I'm not fully asleep, but I'm not like fully awake like I am now. It's just sort of like a drowsy state, and I just like listen and I just like, it's sort of like meditative for me, if that makes sense. Like it's in a way that's sort of meditative for me. Yeah. I get content and it's sort of meditative for me. I sort of get into a flow state in terms of just being still and just like closing my eyes and just like visualizing as well. I visualize things a lot when I listen to podcasts because I don't have visual input from a screen, and I just listen and I visualize. It's quite nice. Yeah. I've run out of ideas for this video. I'm like dry. I've like run myself dry with this video. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.